The Black Watch, many of whom started families while stationed in North America, were a major unit during the American War for Independence. At the onset of the conflict, the 42nd boasted a total strength of 991 men and had been stationed back in the British Isles for the last couple years. This deployment was the exception, not the rule for the Black Watch, for the better part of the mid to late 1700s. The Highlanders set sail in a fleet of 33 ships May 1st, 1776. This convoy scattered during the voyage early, and two transports, the Oxford and the Crawford, found themselves unguarded nearing the American shores. Among troops aboard these vessels, many were from the 42nd Highlanders Regiment. The easy targets were captured by Captain Nicholas Biddle of the Continental Navy brig Andrew Doria. These Black Watch would not rejoin their regiment for nearly 2 years. The rest would land on Staten Island August 5, 1776, and were then combined with the 71st to form the 4th Grenadier Battalion. They would serve under Lieutenant Colonel Robert Abercrombie, ultimately led by General Cornwallis. August 27, 1776, the Black Watch participated in the battle on Long Island and Brooklyn. They sustained the loss of Lieutenant Crammond with 9 men wounded on Long Island. The night of September 5, 1776, the 42nd landed at Kips Bay, New York, now a neighborhood of New York City. Along with a contingent of Hessians, a force of New Englanders and Virginians were captured. Stewart of Garth tells the following story. This night, Major Murray was nearly carried off by the enemy, but saved himself by his strength of arm and presence of mind. As he was crossing to his regiment from the battalion, which he commanded, he was attacked by an American officer and 2 soldiers, against whom he defended himself for some time with his fusile, keeping them at a respectful distance. At last, however, they closed upon him, when unluckily his dirk slipped behind, and he could not, owing to his corpulence, reach it. Observing that the rebel officer had a sword in his hand, he snatched it from him and made good use of it, that he compelled them to fly before some men of the regiment who had heard the noise could come up to his assistance. He wore the sword as a trophy during the campaign. Late in 1776, the Highlanders engaged the Patriots on Manhattan Island at the Battle of Harlem Heights. The objective was to neutralize and overrun the highly defensible Fort Washington. Atop a large rock outcrop, approximately half of the fort's approach was impeded by a steep cliff face opposite its geological sibling, the Palisades, across the Hudson River. The Black Watch was intended as a feint, advancing on the rocky cliffside in an attempt to spread out the defenders. The main attack would come from the east and the hilly but more level terrain around the fort. However, the 42nd, relentlessly climbing the cliff face, advanced upon Fort Washington, spread thin inside the fort, and relying on the topography, the Americans chose to deploy a slightly less concentrated defense at this approach. Using skills born of the nature of their homeland of Scotland, the Highlanders achieved legendary status, reaching the summit and overrunning the American forces inside. This before the main attack force even reached the Palisades of Fort Washington. This display of valor wasn't without heavy cost, though. The 42nd lost 1 sergeant, 10 privates, 1 piper, as well as Lieutenants Patrick Graham, Norman McLeod, and Alexander Grant, all killed. 4 sergeants and 66 rank and file were wounded during the assault, combining for a total of 85 casualties. The rest of the winter of 1776 through 1777, the Black Watch found itself in the thick of the action, now fighting in New Jersey. These series of smaller engagements is known as the Forge War, and would set the stage for the survival of the Patriot cause. General Howe set up a series of outposts from Perth Amboy to Bordentown, New Jersey, manned by the 42nd and Hessians. The strategy was to cut eastern New Jersey in half, protecting the heavily loyalist areas in Monmouth and southern Middlesex counties, thus securing much-needed provisions from the land. The 42nd having a few rank-and-file, some of those whom patriated in New Jersey, the 42nd was the obvious choice. Result: Howe's strategy was soundly defeated. The guerrilla tactics employed by Washington and Maxwell strained the Crown's forces in New Jersey, but the Black Watch was among a few units that were able to match tactics despite the Continental's superior knowledge of the land. 42nd Highlanders would fight no less than 5 sizable actions and several other smaller skirmishes during the Forage War. In February of 1777, the 42nd would suffer its most casualties of the Forage War at a place called Spangtown, now Rahway, New Jersey. Link below to our presentation of the Second Battle of Spangtown. At Spangtown, while performing a flanking maneuver on New Jersey militia, the Black Watch was fired upon by Pennsylvania riflemen hiding behind a tree line. 17 men were killed in the initial onslaught. The Highlanders endured 26 killed, with total casualties nearing around 40. On September 5th, 1777, the Black Watch even participated in the raiding of a privateer ship. The 42nd Highlanders fought at the Battle of Brandywine in Pennsylvania. Battalion companies were held in reserve and saw no action, but flank companies lost 4 privates, 2 sergeants, with 15 privates wounded on September 11th, 1777. Under General Charles Gray, the 22nd of September, 1777, the Black Watch participated in a bayonet charge attacking Mad Anthony Wayne's camp by the General Pauley Tavern near Valley Forge. The detachment routed an entire U.S. division without firing a shot. The 42nd lost only 4, with 7 wounded. Early November 1777. Construction of a floating gun batteries, the siege of Fort Mifflin on Mud Island. Stay tuned for part 3 of the 42nd Black Watch in America. From the siege of Fort Mifflin in 1777 till the ending of the war. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed this, leave a comment, tell us what you thought.